The title of this video is not clickbait. Well, I wanted you to click on it, but it is very sincere in the meaning. In fact, I was contemplating calling it my best build ever, but I felt like that was going a little bit far. If you didn't see the last video, I definitely encourage you to watch it, the one on this build, the Fire Trap Elementalist. I have spent the past couple days really going very, very hard on this build, trying everything from 1 divine to 50 plus divine budget, throwing it against all of the content in the game, and I am very pleased to announce this is the best build I've ever made. I am absolutely in love with this build. It basically represents the culmination of the past 2.5 years of me making builds. And I'm very, very proud of it. And I really hope it doesn't get nerfed next league because I want to play it so bad. Now, while the structure of this video may resemble a build guide, this is very much not a build guide. I just want to show you guys what this is, get you guys excited about it, and I will be coming out with, patch notes pending, a full build guide taking you from basically 0 to hero, leveling this up through Katava, the progression through the maps, and then finally pushing it against all of the content in the game. And I cannot emphasize enough how smooth the progression is on this character, how much it can do on a shoestring 1 to 2 divine budget, and then how smoothly that progression is up until 30, 50, or even 100 divines if you want to go all the way. But really, 1 to 2 divines, and you're really attacking most of the content in the game that you care about. The other amazing thing about this build is it is very, very flexible and very SSF friendly. As long as you're not looking to go into that 50 divine plus budget range, you can put this whole thing together very easily in SSF, take down all the content that you need to in the game, and mix things up from there. Hopefully that's enough fluffing up this build to get you guys excited about it. Let's just get into what this is and why I think it's so awesome. All right, so here she is, burn everything to the grow. Couldn't type ground in there, but I am currently a level 96 Elementalist. What I'm wearing right now is probably 50 to 75, possibly even a little bit higher than that, divines on the budget. But as you saw in the intro, it can do Wave 30 Simulacrum, it can do Ubers, it can do everything that you want to. Probably the only thing it can't do is Deep Delving. That's a very specific niche content in the game. As you can see in my inventory, I have spent this morning farming a lot of Uber Eaters. It is very easily. I've killed Uber Eater like 30, 40 times this morning. I had to stop myself from doing it. I was having too much fun actually killing Ubers with this build to make myself actually record this video. But yeah, the general idea behind this is like, yeah, Fire Trap Elementalist, not a new thing. That's a build that's been around in hardcore and solo self-found especially for a while. Basically, after Shaper of Flames, it's a very easy way to get a character off the ground. But the softcore trade part of me wanted to see if I could take that, maybe combine it with the idea, if you remember the Hot Stepper build, which I never actually looked into PoB or anything, but, I know about the concept, right? Just doing Frostblink Ignite. Maybe if I could combine those ideas, as well as utilizing some interesting budget uniques as well that really kick the build off the ground. And then, putting my own polish on it and putting it together in the way that I like. So that's the general idea right here, is we're using Fire Trap, which is a really, really neat skill. I didn't realize, actually, until I decided to use it in the Krangled League, on that Krangled Raider, just like how truly powerful this skill is. I know all you Righteous Fire folks, people in hardcore solo self-found, you know the skill very well, but this is a new skill to me. The big thing about it is it leaves a burning ground on the ground, and when the enemy is burning, it gets flat damage against that burning enemy, and then you can also ignite with it in addition to that. So you can have 2 damage over time effects happening on the enemy, and that burning ground, Righteous Fire folks, you'll know this, modifiers to spell damage, not just increases, but also more spell damage, will also increase that burning ground damage. Since we're an Elementalist, we have the OP node that everyone knows, Shaper of Flames, hits always ignite, all damage can ignite, and another 25% more damage with those ignites. And the wild thing about Fire Trap is it scales for levels better than almost any other skill in the game, up until about level 30. It scales more like a Chaos Dot skill than other skills in the game. So I almost felt extra at home scaling Fire Trap because it has more in common with something like Bane than other spells in the game. So I basically took my regular concept of what I do with Bane, toss it in a Skin of the Lords. Everyone knows that Skin of the Lords is like the easiest way to scale spells on a shoestring budget, and then getting as much plus level as I can in other locations. The cool thing is with Skin of the Lords and an Empower and Awaken Burning damage, and then with a +1/+1 just on the amulet here, I actually don't have any plus levels on my scepters. I am able to have a level 31 Fire Trap. And really, once you're at about level 30, then you get diminishing returns on scaling the level there. But it gets like 15 or 20% more damage per level from 20 to 30. So Fire Trap just scales crazy, crazy well with those gem levels. So we just want to push that up ASAP. The other really neat thing that we have going for us in this build is it's very easy for an elementalist, especially with the stronger curses these days, to get a monster's resistance below 0. So with Mastermind of Discord and then using 2 different curses, we can get even uber bosses below 0 resistance. And then the downside of Eye of Malice here, nearby enemies have 50% increased fire and cold res. That's just a multiplier in either direction. Luckily with PoB, you can mouse over the fire effective DPS mod, and we can see that I have negative 137 to the monster's elemental resistance. So even in the situation where we're fighting Uber Eater of Worlds, he has 50 fire res by default. And then if we go to configuration, we see that he gets an additional 50 for 100 fire resistance, minus 137, he's at negative 37. And then 37 times 1.5, we actually can even take Uber bosses to negative 55 resistance. And that is the power of the Eye of Malice. It's really, really hard to beat this helmet. The other very cheap unique that we're using is the Pyre Ring. It gives us 3 things here that we really like. The increased burning damage, which you can see has a roll between 60 and 80%. And then you can use the Elemental Catalyst to get that up to 96%. So just 96% increased damage on a 1 Chaos Ring is pretty incredible. And then the cold damage converted to fire damage is actually really nice for us because that makes the Frost Blink do more fire damage than cold damage, which then enables the Shaper of Flames mod because then we do more fire damage than cold damage. So the Shaper of Flame mod here will get that 25% more damage multiplier. Skin of the Lords, Fire Trap in here. Then we have Swift Affliction, Burning Damage, Empower, of course, because like I said, you know, in Empower, in a Skin of the Lords, pushing those gem levels with Fire Trap is pretty nutty. Anomalous Combustion is the best because we get 5% faster Ignite. And then Trap and Mind Damage support here is just crazy, right? 52% more damage. You can't really beat that. 1 Chaos Helmet here, 1 Chaos Ring here. And these are basically best in slot. It's really hard to beat these. Plus gem level Amulet. This one was like 20 divines for me, but you could just toss in an Ashes if you wanted to. Or you could go for a single +1 with some dot multi, something like that. It'll be significantly cheaper. So yeah, and just to show the difference, like why this really expensive amulet is not that necessary, I have a 50 Chaos Amulet right here for my budget version. You can see that we only lose 2 million DPS. This expensive 20 Divine Amulet, you can see how little difference it makes. It is not necessary. The amount that I spent on this version of the build is, you know, it's overkill. I'm just trying to like min-max a little bit here. These scepters are actually very, very easy to craft. All you need to do is get fractured dot multi and then hit it with scorched fossils until you get fire damage or burning damage and fire dot multi on the suffix. Then the easiest thing is suffixes can't be changed, reforge fire, or use a veiled chaos orb, try to unveil that fire damage, but you're actually okay unveiling spell damage because like I said, is the burning ground on fire trap also scales with spell damage, so we don't mind that. Now it won't scale our ignite damage, but it does scale the burning damage, so it's not bad to have. And then just craft damage over time or fire damage based on what you have. This is a very, very easy craft. And you can even start with any fractures on the suffix, fractured fire damage, fractured fire dot multi, or fractured burning damage. So you don't have to get the perfect one, and you can just start off with something much cheaper. And in fact, the very budget 1 divine version uses a 1 chaos scepter right here. That'll be for the budget league start guide, so don't worry about that. And then just regular spell suppression gloves. We want ignites faster and scorch ground on the boots right here. Very cheap, easy to craft boots right here. Most of these items are only 1 to 2 divines. This is actually my reused belt from all previous builds because it's just really nice quality of life. But actually, an Olesia's Delight is more damage for this build, and it's a 1 chaos belt. This is actually a really nice damage boost for this build, and it's a 1 chaos belt. You can just buy a bunch of them, corrupt them, and try to get a better implicit. So what it does is it replaces frenzy charges with affliction charges, which says players have 8% more damage with ailments and 8% more effective non-damaging ailments. Since we scorch, chill, and shock very consistently with our build, the more effect of non-damaging ailments is actually really good damage for us as well. In fact, if you want to do more damage, you can just grab this belt. And then what I think is kind of like the defining characteristic of what makes this just a solid, fun build for all content, particularly mapping. It's not slowly walking around with just throwing your traps. We also have Frostblink right here. And this is the crazy Frostblink MTX. I have to turn it off when I'm bossing because it's really distracting. It's kind of cool. So I have Frostblink linked with combustion, burning damage support, and ignite proliferation. And if we look right here, you can see our Frostblink DPS is 1.8 million. So just when we're mapping around, Frostblink alone is carrying with the prolif and the increased AoE and everything. We don't have to throw any fire traps while we're mapping. It'll kill rares, it'll kill everything. And I think that's really what kind of pushes it over the edge for me to make it a fun build. If it was just throwing traps and then leap slam, throw some traps and leap slam, this is like a fine hardcore solo self-found build. You know, you can make it a little bit tankier, but it wouldn't have that oomph of like just being a softcore trade, like blasting build. But having that Frostblink that just, you know, refreshes every single time you Frostblink into a pack, it will kill the entire pack. It'll blow up the entire screen. Really pushes it over the edge to me of making it just like a really fun, fast build that just like it gets around. You get that crazy leap slam frostblink mobility. I think it looks sick as hell. I really, really love this build. I can't stop gushing about it. In terms of our auras, we have a ton. We're using Malevolence, Determination, Vitality, Skitterbots, Flesh and Stone, and Precision. You'll notice that I also have Critical Strike Chance on my Quicksilver, and the reason why we're using Precision is we have Elemental Overload right here. And the way that EO works is that if your skill has crit in the past 8 seconds, you'll do 40% more elemental damage, turning your skill into a 7-link skill, right? So both the Burning Ground and your Ignites will get that 40% more damage, but you have to crit. You know, usually if you're doing an Ignite build, it's hard to scale that crit. And you'll see without any buffs up, I only have 9.3% chance to crit with my Fire Trap, and that's just not enough, right? You know, 1 out of 11 times or so, I'm going to be triggering the Elemental Overload, and that's just not consistent enough, really, to like, you want that damage uptime when you're bossing, and that's why I'm running Precision and using the critical strike suffix on my flask here. That gives me 12.5% chance, and I think that's enough to get pretty decent consistency. The other thing you can do is go for a crit chance on a regular jewel here, and that'll make a big difference. Besides auras, we're using elemental weakness right here, and anomalous flammability makes flammability stronger. So the last thing that we have here is Infernal Cry. We use this because it covers enemies in ash, which increases fire damage taken, which gives us a lot more damage. I'm using Storm Shroud to become fully ailment immune. I do this by having 50% chance to avoid being shocked on this jewel here, and then 50% chance to avoid being shocked on the boots that you can craft with an essence. This is a very easy boot craft. I bought the base for 1 divine, and then I spammed it until I got any chaos res. I happen to hit T1. You know, just go for that third suffix. Suffixes can't be changed. Use a Veiled Chaos Orb, and then just block life or mana. You're basically guaranteed to get movement speed on that Unveil. Very easy craft. 1 cluster jewel here with Burning Bright, Prismatic Heart, and Widespread Destruction. And then this is basically our best in slot for the regular jewels here. Dot multi, burning damage, life, and damaging ailments deal damage faster. And then I have 1 small spell suppression jewel here to cap my spell suppression. So as you can see with my defenses, with my flask up, I have 17k armor, which is, you know, not crazy, but it's enough to feel a little bit comfortable. And then I have additional physical damage reduction while focused. That's on my left click. Cast when damage taken, Molten Shell, max spell suppression, good resistances, and fully ailment immune. Then I'm using Soul of Solaris because we're fully ailment immune. We don't need Brine King. And then I'm using Soul of Rislatha right here. But, you know, Minor Pantheon is just up to you. And then since I have Bastion of Elements, I have Primal Aegis right here for a 2300 shield on elemental damage, and I'm also fully reflect immune. Since my Skin Lords has Eldritch Battery, we can actually run every single map mod in the game, although reduced recovery of energy shields a little uncomfortable. All right, and let's talk about the build mechanics, the way it feels, and like the way that you would play it. So let's run a 40% Delirious Phoenix map right here. Hopefully this is a juicy enough map for you guys. So the main playstyle, like I said, is your Frostblink's going to be clearing most of the monsters. You actually don't have to throw many fire traps, but I do tend to throw about 1 per screen, just to make sure that we don't have to worry about any stragglers. If you get overwhelmed, like I said earlier, you want to periodically Infernal Cry. That will make the monsters take more damage. It'll slow them down. You know, it'll give you a really big explosion pop as well. Other than that, you're just going to be Leap Slam Frostblinking, and it's going to clear most stuff, right? This is just Frostblink. I'm not throwing any fire traps. Now, you'll see that some of the rares, you know, cycling damage. Okay, well, that's cycling damage reduction. Those ones are a little crazy. So we'll throw some fire traps there. All right, perfect. We got an Omniphobia. You know, do your stuff. Yeah, all right. T16, 40% Delirious Omni. And as you can see, like, you know, the defenses are solid enough, right? We have a ton of recovery. We have decent life regen. And, yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty darn awesome. Frostblink around. It resets very, very quickly. You do want to make sure that you're kind of Frostblinking in a pack of monsters. Otherwise, the cooldown won't really go down very quickly. And that's it. Like, just super solidly tanky, in my opinion. And the Frostblink by itself. All right, we got a Beyond Boss as well. Double Beyond Bosses. All right, let's see how this goes. Or maybe that was 1. I couldn't even tell. Tainted Mythic Orb. Okay. All right, Phoenix. You know, put our curses on him. And he's dead as well. We can preload essences, which is pretty cool. Curse him. Double essences down. I don't know. I am really, truly blown away by how crazy this build is. I don't know. I hope you're hyped about it. The other really cool thing about this is it's pretty resilient against gem colors. There's a lot of different flexibility. As you can see, I have tons of different gems here. While we do strongly prefer Eldritch Battery, we could use something like Magebane. In the very low budget setup, I even say buy anything that doesn't have Blood Magic on it. There's very few keystones that actually brick this build, you know, Supreme Ego and Blood Magic, right? Basically, any other keystone, we're good to go. You know, it might be difficult to get a second red socket, so we could use Ignite Prolif instead, you know, if we get a blue socket or anything like that. I'm actually not too worried about getting the right Skin of Lords because, you know, while this is the ideal colors, there's a lot of flexibility and we can just get going without the exact one that we're looking for. So yeah, assuming no nerfs from GGG in 3.21, this will be my league starter, you know, and this will be the build that I probably take all the way to 40 out of 40 challenges. And I'll probably play it at least the entire first month because it does all of the content in the game from 1 Divine up until whatever investment you want to go to. It'll do most of the content in the game very easily. Like, I'm not sure I've played a better build that, you know, at least makes me this happy. And I'm very, very excited to put it together in 3.21 and see if, you know, maybe there's something new in the game that can push it even further. I'm really excited for that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Definitely get subscribed if you want to see more. Definitely tune in on Twitch this Thursday because we're going to be doing the reveal. And then we're going to immediately start working on builds like right when we read those patch notes. If you want to see the latest and greatest, definitely tune in then. And yeah, I'll see y'all soon. Bye.